Thank you very much. So first of all, I want to introduce myself. If my deck comes up. There we go. So I'm Benjamin Spiegel, Director of Search Operations at Catalyst Online. There's my Twitter info if anybody has any questions. One of the things Gary didn't know when he invited me is I have a fear of public speaking, presentations, and PowerPoint. So this might be really interesting. Besides that, I love search, analytics, data, and I drink massive amounts of caffeine. So I might be a little bit shaky too. So the other thing I can't stand are data silos. We work with a number of amazing brands that have the latest technologies, greatest social monitoring, bid management, other platforms, but all the data is stored in silos. The rankings are in one place, traffic engagement in another, social in another, and all the media and display data is in another one. So I tried to come up with a slide to show some of them, and I ran out of space. And this is literally just a handful of brands. Raven, Acquisio, of course, first up top, But generally, we're looking just from a search perspective at different analytics platforms, different paid platforms, different social, and just general attribution modeling tools. So what can we do? How can we work with the brands and help them? So we get together with our brands, and we come up with this process that looks something like this without going too technical. So first of all, we sit down and we determine the data sources. So what are really your business KPIs, and how do we translate them into measurements we can execute against? So we go and say, okay, purchase in the retail store, brick and mortar, is it? Then we have a coupon on the side, so let's measure against the coupon. Then we figure out where can we get this data from, who has it? We connect with the different data vendors, like Raven Tools or them, and we build adapters, connect to the API, and create automated processes that then collect the data. One thing important for us is working with a lot of brands is scalability. So while it's nice to go in and export a spreadsheet, you don't want to do that 100 times. So we rely heavily on providers that have APIs and data automation. And then as we go big to this, data is big, like you mentioned earlier. So we're talking for one brand, sometimes over 500 gigabytes of display, search, and media data. So it's a little bit tricky to come up with good scalable data solutions. But once you have this real-time analytics data, you can go then and visualize, work with BI tools, and analyze the data in almost real time, which becomes a real advantage, even for the brands who come back now and say, hey, can we use this database? Our analysts, our InSphere analytics people want to look at it. So what does it really mean for me as an SEO search person? So generally, the traditional, let's say, key phrase strategy, we're looking at a spreadsheet. We're looking at some keywords, maybe some search volume. Which page do we want to target? What is the rank? So that's kind of as far as it goes in the normal day-to-day. So we try to figure out, okay, how can we make that better? How can we make it more exciting and find the kind of special cases, our goals? So we connected some of these visual tools, and we use Spotfire for that to connect to our database and export this. So we look at the plot of all our target key phrases. And on the one hand, we have, I don't know if I can do the cool laser pointer here. No. Either way, organic rank on the left-hand side, and on the bottom, the current cost per click. So this already gives us kind of these 4 quadrants on what's above, what's below the fold, where do we want to invest, and where not. But we didn't really want to stop there, because that's, again, it's the same data, just in a different dimension. So we said, okay, let's really start and scale them by the size of the price. It's always what our brand's asking us for. How much can I get for it? So now it becomes a little bit more visually appealing, and we can see these clusters forming of different interest points. But again, it's only two data sources. So how about pulling in Google Analytics or Web Trends data, and let's see how the consumers are behaving with these key phrases when they land on our sites. And immediately we're starting to see the great red cluster on top look great in the beginning, but now we can see they're all bouncing. So we may either want to look at where they're landing, where they're being directed to, or look at, is this really where we want to play? Next thing that comes up then is, okay, but is this something, if I want to invest in content is expensive. Developing, implementation, building it out. So how about pulling in the Google Trends forecast data to get then a more visual picture telling you which are the up arrows, so which are the terms that are forecasted to be rising, which are the ones that are in decline. So obviously, we don't want to build content on a declining term. And again, we can pull in here conversion data and other metrics, whatever is the metric the brand is interested in. So, and again, for a quick strategy, you would look at exactly what is below the fold, and then we say, okay, the expensive terms we want to build organic content against, and the paid ones that are on the lower cost end, it's not really good ROI to build content for these cheap terms. Let's just buy them through paid channels. So I kind of wanted to connect this with a real-world case study with an unnamed brand. They basically came back to us and said, hey, we want that whenever somebody searches, 50% of the time, we want them to see our brand. It's a brick-and-mortar brand, so they didn't really care about their own brand side, more about exposure. So currently, we did a measurement, and we found out that about 15% of the consumers searching for the terms connecting to the brand. So, there's one. Okay. So when we look as an example term, headache relief, we have in the top ABC News, WikiHow, YouTube. A lot of these terms you can't just compete against. You can't win them that easily. So we try to figure out what do they have all these sites in common. And they all have search boxes. And consumers love to search. So we figured out, okay, how can we now reach them? So we looked at the sites that are ranking, like WebMD and ABC News. And they all have media placements. They all have internally search boxes, search results. So we started treating the WebMD search results just like the Google results page. We have owned assets on there, sponsored media. Why not optimize the content we have placed on there for our key phrases? So even if the consumer searches for headache relief and does not go to the brand, he still gets exposed to the brand and the brand message. So again, going back to scale. So how do we decide where we want to go? So we took around 4,000 key phrases for these brands and collected via the Google API the top 20 rankings for each term. After removing duplicates, we ended up with 60,000 unique pages. Then we went in and said, okay, let's connect to the Compete, Comscore, and DoubleClick API and get some audience data. Those are mostly soccer moms that are being targeted, so let's remove all male-heavy side, or more youth-targeted sites. Let's filter this data down. And again, this is all being done automated through APIs. Then we pulled in the content, and we looked at sentiment data, because the brand is very clear. We are a family brand. We don't want to be on negatively toned side. We don't want to be surrounded by negative content. So we used different sentiment APIs and pulled out that data. Then, as a good step, we went in and we said, okay, what are the links? We looked at the linkscape for these sites. Is there an extra benefit to be on WebMD, have content there? What's the benefit? We also looked at already existing referral traffic again. So if these brands are already driving traffic to us, how is that traffic engaging? How is it converting? Is it somewhere where we want to play? This left us with about 63 points of data per domain. That's all binary data that can be calculated, where we can say bounce rate has to be above X, impressions have to be above X. So then we filtered the URLs. We removed, based on audience data, everything that did not align. We removed everything that had low engagement. We also removed sites that just couldn't be influenced, like government sites and some other ones, and also anything that had low social or link authority. So this left us again with one of these plots that I just love. But it shows on the left-hand side what's the visibility in the ranking. So let's say I have 5 headache-related terms. On top would be the sites that repetitively showed up for it. And on the bottom axis, you can see, okay, what are the referral pages per visit? So when they're bringing us traffic, how is it behaving? So we can see in the bottom left-hand, there is a lot of red bubbles. They're not really interested. The more we go to the right, we see highly engaged consumers. And then we can highlight them and target who do we want to go after. The size of the bubble is based on compete data, the traffic to that site. So is it worthy playing there? Should we invest in content there? And based on that, based on the key phrases, when searched them again after a couple of months, a lot of the results contained our brand mentions. We ranked highly in the internal searches. So when you search in WebMD against their terms, is brand-sponsored content. Again, this did not happen in a search vacuum. We worked with media agencies, content strategists. We did media buys, sponsored stories on there. But this is one of the examples how when you combine all the data from display, search, social media, how do you find really the sites that provide the best value, and say, everybody on WebMD is highly engaged, people coming from there to us, connecting with our brand, they have a great link authority, let's get on there. And then we talk to the display team and say, can you do a media buy there? We talk to the content and the planning agency. Can we write a featured story on there? So working together across all these groups and other agencies gives you success like that. And that's it for me.
All right, guys, we'll open it up to some Q&A. Questions? Lots of data, lots of questions on the right.